Here we go with our handout, the digestion sheet number 1 for the table showing the categories of food and their form. We said that we have categories of organic food. We have three. We have carbohydrates, we have proteins, and we have lipids. Let's start with carbohydrates. So first, I'm going to talk with carbohydrates and this one. Okay, I'm going to talk with carbohydrates. Let's start first of all. We said carbohydrates, they are natural source of sugars. They are fast source of energy. They contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. What I want from you is to know that carbohydrates, they are a good source of energy. I don't want you to know that contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, so you have to know that they contain fast, they have good source of energy, complex form, intermediate form, and the simplest form. We said that the complex form is called the polysaccharides. Why? Because it's a chain of simple sugar, like the starch, like the cellulose in plants, and something called glycogen in animals. So polysaccharides, it's the complex form. So the complex form of carbohydrate is called the polysaccharides. I'm going to underline this. It's called polysaccharides. The complex form, the most complicated. أكثر شيء معقد it's called the polysaccharide. Intermediate, it's half half. Intermediate, it's the disaccharide. I said that di, it means two. So disaccharides, two simple sugars, they are bonded together. They are connected to each other. Like maltose, you have to know this. It's the glucose and the glucose bonded together. You have to know this. And you have to study that maltose, it's the glucose and the glucose connected to each other. And you have to know lactose. It's glucose and galactose. They are connected to each other. As we said that lactose is the sugar that's found in the milk. Sucrose, it's the glucose and the fructose. It's found mainly in the fruits. Don't focus on non-reducing or reducing this time. Next time we will talk about reducing sugar and non-reducing. So you have to know that the intermediate form is called the disaccharide. It's made up of two sugars bonded together. First one is maltose. It's glucose and the glucose connected to each other. Second, we have lactose. It's glucose and galactose. And you have to know that sucrose, it's glucose with fructose. Moving to the simplest form. Simplest, it's one. So it's called mono. Monosaccharide. So monosaccharide, it's made up of only one unit, like glucose, fructose, and galactose. Okay, so one unit. So till now, we identified how many forms for the carbohydrates. We have three forms. Number one, the complex, the most complicated. It's the polysaccharide. What is the polysaccharide? Complex chain of simple sugars. What are they? Starch, cellulose in plants, and the glycogen in animals. Intermediate, they are disaccharide. They are made of two sugars connected to each other, like maltose, it's glucose and the glucose. Lactose, it's glucose and galactose. If you notice here, all of them they have glucose. One of them is glucose always. So maltose is glucose and the glucose. Lactose is glucose and galactose. And we have sucrose, it's glucose with fructose. While the monosaccharide, mono means one, monosaccharide, one sugar. So glucose, fructose, and galactose. This is everything related to the carbohydrates and their forms. Complex هي أكتر شيء معقد. Intermediate نص نص ما كتير معقد وما كتير simple. While the last one is the simplest form, or it's called the nutrient form. Now let's move to proteins. Proteins, they are known to be a plastic food. They are needed for the development of the cells and they are needed for growth. That's why those who go to the gym, they need to eat a food that's rich in protein in order to build their muscles and build their muscles of the body and their form and shape. Okay? So guys, be excited about this. So proteins, what is the complex form of proteins? Complex form of proteins is called proteins. So proteins, they are a chain, a long chain of more than 52 amino acids. So these shapes or circles or boxes, they are called amino acids. A chain of more than 52, we call it protein, is the complex form. There's a complex form of proteins, it's called proteins. So this is the complex form. While the intermediate form is called polypeptide. The meaning of polypeptide. Also, it's a chain of amino acid, but it's less than 52. So the complex should be greater than 52. We call it protein. Less than 52, we call it polypeptide. Why? If it's only one, what do we call it? It's the amino acid. So amino acid is the simplest form of proteins. It's only one. So one amino acid is the simplest form. Less a chain that is less than 52 is called polypeptide. Why? If you have a chain greater than 52, we call it protein. So this is everything related to the second type of food, which is called the protein. Moving for the last type of food, which is the lipids. Lipids, they are very energetic. You have to know this. Lipids, they are very energetic. What's the meaning of this? If we have 5 grams of lipids and we have 5 grams of carbohydrates, both of them they give us energy, but the quantity of lipids has doubled. What the meaning of double? It's times 2 the amount of energy provided by carbohydrates. So lipids, they are very, very, very good source of energy. So the same amount of lipids and carbohydrates, the lipids will give double the amount of energy. What do we call the complex form of lipid? It's called the lipids or the fats. So people who eat, for example, meat or eat, let's say, meat, fatty meat, let's say. And in Arabic, it's called the لحم الدهن. اللي فيها الدهن, they will accumulate fat and they will become obese. Why? Because these fats will accumulate in the body. So you don't have to eat high amount of this. You can eat a little amount, not a high amount, in prevention to be an obese person. Here, this is the complex form. It's called the lipids or the fats. If you notice here, there is no intermediate form. No intermediate form. We don't have an intermediate form. While we have a simplest form. What is the simplest form? It's called fatty acid plus glycerol. So this table is very important. You have to study this. Already I told you, you have to study this table. So you have to know that lipids, they don't have intermediate. They have only complex and simple. Complex form, it's called the lipids or the fats. Simplest form, it's called fatty acids plus glycerol. Here, as a quick revision, carbohydrates, we have 3 forms. Complex form is called polysaccharide. Intermediate is called the disaccharide. Simplest form is called the monosaccharide. You have to know the details about the polysaccharide, the details about the disaccharide, but don't focus about reducing or non-reducing these ones. They are not important. For example, they are not important, these ones. Don't focus on that right now. Afterwards, we'll focus about these. Monosaccharides, they are only one unit, like glucose, fructose, and galactose. Also, don't focus on all our reducing sugars these days. Afterwards, we'll focus about this. Proteins, you have to know that we have complex form, it's called the proteins. A simplest intermediate form is called polypeptide. So proteins, a chain of greater than 52 amino acid is called protein. Less than 52, it's polypeptide, while if it's only one, it's called amino acid. So amino acid is the simplest. When we connect more than one amino acid, it's called polypeptide. Till 52. If it's less than 52, it's called polypeptide. If it's greater than 52, it will be protein. Moving to the lipids, you have to know they are very energetic and they give double the amount of energy than that of the same amount of carbohydrates. Complex form is called lipids, while the simplest form is called fatty acids plus glycerol. And not fatty acids, it's called fatty, F-A-T-T, fatty acids plus glycerol. There is no intermediate form. This is everything related to this handout that you have to study and you have to focus on. Thank you.